Welcome to Animal Quests. The ocean harbors numerous perils, from menacing sharks and whales to formidable leopard seals, all of which can be incredibly dangerous as history has shown. Today, we delve into 6 terrifying tales of some of the most horrifying attacks the ocean has ever witnessed. Do you dare to watch until the end? The first story takes us to the breathtaking shores of False Bay, South Africa, a place known for its rich marine life and crystal-clear waters. On September 26, 1994, 4 friends set out for a snorkeling adventure that promised excitement and wonder. However, their adventure quickly turned into a harrowing encounter with one of the sea's most dangerous animals. False Bay was alive with the sounds of crashing waves and seagulls calling overhead. The sun was high, casting a golden hue over the sand and surf. Alex, a charismatic and adventurous spirit, was the unofficial leader of the group. Today was going to be epic. Alex, with his infectious enthusiasm, was sure of it. Rachel, equally thrilled and armed with her knowledge as a marine biology student, anticipated the fascinating species they might encounter. Mike, the group's jokester, was ready for anything the ocean threw at them, as long as it wasn't a great white shark. Lisa, always the cautious one, double-checked her equipment, mindful of the ocean's unpredictable nature. With gear in hand, the friends approached the water's edge, excitement bubbling within them. Slipping into the cool, inviting water, they were greeted by a world of color and life. Schools of fish darted around them, the sunlight creating a dance of shadows on the ocean floor. They swam together, pointing out sea anemones and starfish, their laughter muffled by their snorkels. It wasn't long before they ventured further from shore, drawn by the allure of deeper waters and the promise of more fascinating creatures. They were about 30 minutes into their dive when Alex spotted something unusual. A darker patch of water lay ahead, catching his eye. It could be a pod of dolphins or perhaps even a whale, Rachel thought as she swam closer, her curiosity piqued. As they neared the shadow, the water grew colder and the light dimmed. The atmosphere shifted, a tension settling over the group. Suddenly, out of the murky depths, a large figure shot towards them with terrifying speed. It was a leopard seal, its sleek body cutting through the water with predatory grace. In an instant, the tranquility of their dive shattered. The seal lunged at Alex, its powerful jaws closing around his leg. Pain seared through him as he struggled to free himself. His friends reacted instinctively, rushing to help despite the danger. Rachel and Mike grabbed Alex's arms, trying to pull him away from the seal's grip. But the predator was relentless, its eyes filled with a terrifying determination. Blood clouded the water, a stark contrast against the blue-green depths. Rachel, with her knowledge of marine life, knew how dangerous a leopard seal could be when it felt threatened or territorial. The seal, sensing the struggle, released Alex momentarily only to turn and snap at Rachel, catching her arm in its powerful jaws. She screamed in pain, her voice muffled by the water. Mike, in a desperate attempt to save his friends, punched the seal's nose, a move he'd read might deter aggressive marine animals. But the seal was undeterred, now turning its attention to Mike, biting down on his leg with a force that sent a shock of agony through him. Lisa, heart-pounding, surfaced and screamed for help, her voice barely audible above the waves. She spotted a lifeguard on the shore, waving frantically to get his attention. Desperation fueled her strokes as she swam back to her friends, determined to do anything to save them. The lifeguard, armed with a harpoon, dove into the water and swam towards the struggling group. He reached them with a swift, practiced motion. The lifeguard fended off the seal, his harpoon a barrier between the friends and the predator. The seal, finally deterred, retreated into the depths, leaving the water stained with blood and the friends in shock. They were rushed to the shore, their bodies battered and their spirits broken. As they lay on the sand, the reality of what had happened began to sink in. Alex, Rachel, and Mike were in critical condition. Emergency services arrived quickly. They were rushed to the hospital, sirens blaring as the ambulance sped through the streets. At the hospital, the doctors and nurses worked tirelessly to save them. Surgery was required for all 3, their injuries extensive and life-threatening. Despite their best efforts, Alex, Rachel, and Mike succumbed to their wounds. The trauma of the attack and the severity of their injuries were too much for their bodies to endure. Lisa, though physically unharmed, was left with deep emotional scars. She was the only one who survived, the only one who could tell their story. The tragedy sparked an investigation into the circumstances of the attack. Leopard seals, though known to be aggressive, rarely attacked humans. What had provoked this seal to such violence? Theories ranged from territorial behavior to a possible injury or illness that made the seal more aggressive. Some suggested that the presence of the group in the seal's hunting grounds could have triggered a defensive response. Others pointed to the possibility of a lack of food, driving the seal to attack out of desperation. In the end, the tragic events of that day served as a stark reminder of the ocean's unpredictable nature. The next story takes us to Clearwater Beach, Florida, where a peaceful summer morning turns into a heart-pounding struggle for survival. On June 15, 2016, a family outing at the beach becomes a nightmare that leaves everyone questioning the boundaries of human bravery and the ferocity of nature. This is the story of Lucas Parker, a 12-year-old boy whose encounter with one of the ocean's most formidable predators, a great white shark, tests the limits of human endurance and courage. Lucas Parker was a vibrant and adventurous young boy with an insatiable curiosity about the world. His parents, Emily and David Parker, cherished these summer trips to Clearwater Beach, a place where the azure waters and golden sands provided the perfect backdrop for family fun and relaxation. On that fateful day in June, the sun had risen over the horizon, casting a warm glow over the beach as seagulls flew overhead, their cries mixing with the sound of the gentle waves. The beach was bustling with families setting up umbrellas, children building sand castles, and surfers catching the early waves. Amidst this picturesque scene, Lucas was eager to explore the shallow waters, his snorkel and mask in hand. His parents, Emily and David, were nearby, setting up their beach chairs and cooler, momentarily distracted by the task at hand. Unbeknownst to them, Lucas's adventurous spirit led him to venture further into the ocean than he had ever gone before. As Lucas swam, he marveled at the vibrant marine life below him. The sun's rays penetrated the clear water, illuminating schools of fish that darted around him, and he felt an overwhelming sense of freedom and excitement. But what Lucas didn't realize was that he was gradually moving into deeper waters, far from the safety of the shore. Suddenly, a shadow loomed beneath him, its movement swift and deliberate. In an instant, the serene underwater world transformed into a scene of terror. A great white shark, nearly 15 feet in length, emerged from the depths, its cold black eyes locking onto Lucas. Without warning, the shark struck, its powerful jaws clamping down on Lucas's leg. The pain was immediate and excruciating, and Lucas let out a scream that was muffled by the water. On the beach, Emily and David's attention snapped to the ocean at the sound of their son's cry. Panic surged through them as they saw the thrashing in the water and realized what was happening. David, driven by instinct and fear, rushed towards the shoreline, shouting for help. The beachgoers nearby quickly understood the gravity of the situation, and chaos erupted as people began to scramble. Amidst the pandemonium, Jack Miller, a seasoned local fisherman who was nearby on his small fishing boat, noticed the commotion. Jack was well known in the community for his deep knowledge of the ocean and his quick thinking in emergencies. As he peered through his binoculars, he saw the unmistakable sight of a shark attacking a child. Without hesitation, Jack maneuvered his boat towards the scene, his heart pounding in his chest. The shark's grip on Lucas was relentless, and the boy's struggles grew weaker as he lost blood. Just as it seemed hope was fading, Jack arrived, wielding his fishing stick with determined precision. With a swift, forceful strike, he managed to hit the shark on its snout, a very sensitive area. This part of the shark, full of nerve endings, helps it sense prey. Hitting it hard caused the shark significant pain and confusion, making it let go of Lucas and swim away. But the ordeal was far from over. As Lucas desperately tried to reach Jack's outstretched hand, The shark, enraged and sensing its prey slipping away, lunged once more. Its jaws clamped down on Lucas's leg again, dragging him back into the depths. Lucas, fighting through the agony, managed to grab Jack's hand just as the shark pulled him. Jack, using all his strength, yanked Lucas upwards, and the shark's grip finally loosened. Jack pulled Lucas into the boat, his legs severely injured and blood pouring out. Lucas's face was pale, and he was on the verge of losing consciousness. Jack knew every second counted. He quickly applied a tourniquet to Lucas's leg to slow the bleeding, and then sped towards the shore, his heart pounding with fear and determination. As Jack raced back to shore, the sight of Lucas's pale face and the blood-soaked water filled him with dread. He knew the boy's chances of survival hinged on getting him to medical help as quickly as possible. On the beach, Emily and David watched in horror and desperation as Jack's boat approached. The crowd parted to make way for the boat, and paramedics, who had been called in the chaos, rushed forward. Lucas was swiftly transferred to a waiting ambulance, his life hanging in the balance. The severity of his injuries was undeniable, and his survival depended on the skill and speed of the medical team. As the ambulance sped away, Emily and David clung to each other, their world shattered by the horrifying events that had unfolded. The following hours were a blur of uncertainty and fear. News of the attack spread rapidly, and the beach community was gripped by shock and concern for Lucas. Unfortunately, despite the best efforts of the medical team, the damage to Lucas's leg was too severe. The doctors had no choice but to amputate his leg to save his life. Lucas survived the ordeal, but his life was forever changed. In the end, as the sun set over Clearwater Beach, the once tranquil shore was marked by the memory of a young boy's harrowing ordeal and the heroic efforts of a local fisherman who risked everything to save him. But the story of this horror shark doesn't end here. In the same week, the same shark attacked again, this time targeting a honeymoon couple. It was June 18, 2016, just 3 days after a young boy had been attacked by a shark in the same waters. The incident had shaken the local community, but the allure of Clearwater Beach remained strong. Sarah and Michael Davidson, a couple deeply in love and excited for their future, arrived at the beach, eager to start their honeymoon. They were the picture of happiness, laughing and playfully teasing each other as they walked along the shore. Michael, tall and athletic with a charming smile, was the epitome of confidence and joy. Sarah, with her radiant beauty and infectious laughter, was the perfect match for him. Together they seemed invincible, ready to take on the world hand in hand. The sun was shining brightly, the water invitingly clear, and the gentle waves beckoned them to take a paddle. They rented a paddleboard and eagerly set out, paddling into the open sea. The water was cool and refreshing, a perfect escape from the summer heat. They splashed each other, laughed, and enjoyed the moment, unaware of the danger lurking beneath. As they ventured further from the shore, the world around them seemed to fade away, leaving only the sound of their laughter and the rhythmic splash of their paddles. It was a moment of pure bliss, a memory they intended to cherish forever. But fate had other plans. Without warning, the tranquility was shattered by a sudden, powerful force. Michael, sensing something was wrong, turned just in time to see a massive dorsal fin slicing through the water. His heart raced as he realized what was happening. A shark was circling them. Panic set in as he shouted to Sarah, but the sheer terror in his voice only served to heighten her fear. The shark, a monstrous presence in the water, moved with an unsettling grace and speed, its eyes fixed on the couple. The shark's first strike was swift and brutal. It lunged at Sarah, its jaws clamping down on her leg with a force that sent shockwaves of pain through her body. She screamed, a sound of pure agony and terror. As she struggled to free herself, blood began to cloud the water, and the reality of their situation hit them both like a tidal wave. Michael, driven by a desperate need to save his wife, grabbed his paddle and struck the shark with all his might. The shark, momentarily deterred, released Sarah, who was now barely conscious and bleeding profusely. Michael's heart pounded as he tried to fend off the predator. But the shark was relentless. In a horrific turn of events, the shark turned its attention to Michael, biting into his arm and pulling him underwater. The pain was excruciating, but adrenaline and sheer willpower kept him fighting. He jabbed at the shark's eyes with his fingers, a desperate and primal act of survival. On the shore, a lifeguard had his extra attention on the water, ever since the shark attack just a few days prior. He noticed the commotion almost immediately and sprang into action. He called for backup and grabbed a rescue boat, racing towards the scene. Every second felt like an eternity as he battled the waves, his heart pounding with fear and determination. When he reached the couple, he found Michael still fighting the shark, his strength waning. The lifeguard acted swiftly, using a harpoon to distract the shark long enough to pull Michael and Sarah onto the boat. Sarah was unconscious, her legs severely injured, and Michael was barely holding on, his arm mangled and bleeding. As the rescue boat sped towards the shore, the lifeguard radioed ahead to ensure paramedics were ready. The urgency in his voice conveyed the gravity of the situation. Upon reaching the shore, the paramedics quickly transferred Sarah and Michael into waiting ambulances. Their injuries were severe. Both required immediate medical attention and surgery. Sarah, still unconscious, was rushed into surgery to stop the bleeding and save her leg. Michael, despite his pain and exhaustion, remained conscious long enough to ensure that Sarah was being taken care of before succumbing to his own injuries. He too was wheeled into the operating room, where doctors worked tirelessly to repair the damage done by the shark's powerful jaws. Miraculously, both Sarah and Michael survived the surgeries. Their road to recovery would be long and arduous, but they were alive. The relief among their family and friends was palpable. But the attack left the community and authorities grappling with numerous questions. How could such a tragedy happen just days after a previous attack? Were the safety measures at Clearwater Beach sufficient? Could more have been done to prevent these attacks? An investigation was launched to understand the behavior of the shark and to determine if there were lapses in the safety protocols. Sarah and Michael's honeymoon had turned into a nightmare, a stark reminder of the ocean's unforgiving nature. While they survived the attack, the scars, both physical and emotional, would remain with them forever. The beach was closed for an investigation, revealing that the same shark had been responsible for the earlier attack. The next story takes us to the breathtaking coastal town of Gansby in South Africa. In the summer of 2015, two friends, Jack Thompson and Alex Foster, set out on an adventure they had long anticipated. They sought the thrill of the open water and the serenity of the sea, but what awaited them was beyond their worst fears. It was a warm summer morning, and the serene waters of South Africa's coastal town, Gansby, glistened under the first light of dawn. Jack Thompson, a seasoned kayaker with over a decade of experience, felt at home on the water. The rhythmic motion of paddling, the salty breeze, and the vastness of the ocean provided a sense of freedom he couldn't find anywhere else. On this particular day, Jack was excited to introduce his friend, Alex Foster, to the joys of kayaking. Alex, a novice kayaker, had always admired Jack's adventures from the shore. The two friends met at the kayak rental shop, exchanging playful banter and excited chatter. Jack couldn't resist teasing Alex about the various dangers of the sea, including the recent news of whales preying on sharks near the coast. They both laughed off the idea of whales attacking humans, dismissing it as an absurdity. As they paddled out, the conversation flowed easily. Jack shared stories of his past kayaking trips, offering tips and tricks to Alex, who listened intently, eager to learn. The bond between the two friends was evident, their camaraderie adding to the joy of the outing. About an hour into their journey, something caught Jack's eye, a dark, sleek shape gliding through the water not far from their kayaks. At first, he thought it might be a dolphin, but as it came closer, he realized it was a whale. The magnificent creature moved with grace and power. Jack and Alex paused to watch, captivated by the whale's presence. It was a rare and beautiful sight, one that they would remember for years to come. The whale seemed to be playing, its dorsal fin slicing through the water with effortless ease. But then, The whale's behavior changed. It began circling the kayaks, its movements becoming more deliberate and focused. Jack's grip tightened on his paddle, his eyes never leaving the whale. He could see the creature's dark eyes, almost as if it were sizing them up, assessing them. Without warning, the whale charged towards Alex's kayak. The impact was sudden and violent, the force of it sending shockwaves through the water. Alex's kayak tipped over instantly, the bright yellow vessel flipping like a toy under the whale's assault. Alex was thrown into the water, a look of shock and terror on his face as he struggled to stay afloat. The once peaceful day had turned into a nightmare in an instant. Panic surged through Jack. He paddled furiously towards Alex. Jack could see Alex thrashing in the water, his eyes wide with fear, his mouth opening and closing as he tried to call out for help. Jack knew they had to get out of the water immediately. He grabbed Alex's arm, pulling him towards his own kayak with all his strength. Jack struggled to maintain balance, the weight of both of them making the kayak wobble precariously. He could feel the cold grip of fear tightening around his chest, but he forced himself to stay focused. They had to survive this. Just as Jack managed to pull Alex halfway onto the kayak, the whale struck again. This time it aimed for Alex directly, its jaws closing around his leg. Alex screamed, a sound that pierced the air and echoed over the water. Blood spurted from the wound, mingling with the salt water, a crimson stain spreading around them. Jack's mind went blank with terror. He kicked at the whale, shouting, trying to fend it off. The whale released Alex, but the damage was done. Alex's leg was badly torn, blood pouring from the gash. Jack hauled Alex onto the kayak, his hands slick with blood, his heart hammering in his chest. The whale retreated slightly, but Jack knew it wasn't over. They needed to get back to shore, and fast. He paddled with all his strength, his muscles burning, his breaths coming in short, desperate gasps. The shore grew closer, but so did the exhaustion. Every stroke was a battle against the tide and their own fear. Alex was slipping in and out of consciousness, his face pale, his breaths shallow. Finally, they reached the beach. Jack collapsed onto the sand, gasping for breath, while Alex lay beside him, pale and shivering. The reality of what had just happened began to sink in. They had survived a whale attack, something almost unheard of. As bystanders rushed to help, calling for medical assistance, Jack looked out at the sea. The vast, beautiful expanse that had once brought him so much joy now seemed ominous and threatening. Alex was rushed to the nearest hospital. His condition was critical, but thanks to the quick response, he survived the attack. Due to significant blood loss, Alex lost consciousness and remained in a delicate state for several days. The bite, though severe, hadn't caused irreversible damage to his leg. With surgery and intensive care, doctors were optimistic about his recovery. The road to healing would be long, but Alex would walk again. The ordeal had left its mark on both friends, a chilling reminder of the ocean's unpredictable and deadly power. Yet it also forged an unbreakable bond between them, born from a shared brush with death. The next story you're about to hear is one of tragedy and terror, unfolding in the serene waters of the Greek Isles. Among the sun-kissed waves and ancient ruins lies a tale of a shark attack so harrowing that it remains one of the most shocking in the archives of the region. This is the story of Dr. Zoe Miller and Alex Diaz. In the summer of 2019, the secluded cove of Kalymnos, a hidden gem among the Greek Isles, was a place of stunning beauty and historical mystery. Dr. Zoe Miller, a renowned underwater archaeologist with a passion for uncovering the secrets of the deep, had heard rumors of an underwater cave rumored to hold ancient artifacts. The promise of undiscovered history called to her like a siren's song. Joining her was Alex Diaz, her trusted diving partner and fellow archaeologist. Together, they had explored countless underwater sites, their bond forged in the depths of the ocean. The morning sun painted the cove with golden hues as Zoe and Alex prepared for their dive. The air buzzed with excitement and anticipation, the thrill of discovery hanging thick. They meticulously checked their gear, ensuring everything was in place. The cave they were about to explore was said to be treacherous, its narrow passages and hidden chambers a challenge even for experienced divers. As they descended into the azure waters, the world above faded away, replaced by the silent, mesmerizing dance of the underwater realm. The cave's entrance loomed ahead, a dark maw against the shimmering sea. Zoe led the way, her heart pounding with the excitement of what lay within. The interior of the cave was a labyrinth of ancient stone, its walls adorned with the remnants of a long-forgotten civilization. Zoe and Alex moved cautiously, their flashlights cutting through the darkness, revealing relics that had lain undisturbed for centuries. Every twist and turn brought new discoveries, fueling their determination to delve deeper. But as they ventured further, a sense of unease began to settle in. The cave grew narrower, its passages more confining. Alex, who had always been the more cautious of the two, signaled for them to turn back. But Zoe, driven by the lure of discovery, pressed on. Then, without warning, the tranquil beauty of the cave shattered. A massive bull shark, territorial and fierce, surged from the shadows. The confined space amplified the terror, the creature's presence overwhelming in the narrow confines. It targeted Alex, its predatory instincts ignited. Panic erupted. Zoe fought to stay calm, her mind racing as she tried to think of a way to save her friend. Her training and experience kicked in. She knew that direct confrontation with the shark could be deadly. She grabbed her diving knife, a necessary tool for any underwater archaeologist, and positioned herself between Alex and the shark. The shark struck with brutal force, its jaws clamping down on Alex's leg. Blood clouded the water, a crimson cloud in the blue depths. Zoe's heart pounded in her chest as she struggled to fend off the shark. She struck at it with the knife, aiming for the sensitive areas around its eyes and gills. The confined space of the cave made every movement a struggle, the walls pressing in around them. Alex's screams of pain were muffled by the water, his face contorted in agony. Desperation drove Zoe to fight harder. She managed to wedge her knife into the shark's gills, momentarily distracting it. She seized the opportunity to drag Alex away, their movements frantic and disjointed. They stumbled through the narrow passageways, the shark's presence never far behind. Finally, they broke free from the cave, the open water a welcome relief. But Alex's injuries were severe, his blood trailing behind them in a grim reminder of the attack. Zoe clung to him, her mind racing with the need to get him to safety. They ascended as quickly as they could, but time was against them. As they neared the surface, Alex's strength waned. His breaths came in ragged gasps, his eyes filled with pain and fear. Zoe's heart ached as she watched her friend struggle, her own tears mixing with the salt water. She held onto him, refusing to let go. They broke the surface, the sunlight blinding after the darkness of the cave. Zoe screamed for help, her voice hoarse and desperate. Nearby boats responded, rushing to their aid. With the help of the fishermen, Alex was pulled onto one of the boats, his life hanging by a thread. The rush to the hospital was a frantic blur. Alex was in critical condition, his legs savagely mauled by the shark. He suffered severe lacerations and significant blood loss. Miraculously, Alex survived, but he had to deal with the trauma for the rest of his life. He warned everyone to never go into the ocean again and was furious at the dangers of the sea. In the aftermath of the attack, the local fishermen who witnessed the rescue described the scene with horror and relief. Dimitris, one of the fishermen, said, "It was a sight I will never forget. The water was red with blood, and the panic on Zoe's face was heart-wrenching. But seeing Alex alive, it was a miracle." The next story takes us to Gracetown, Western Australia, where nature's beauty meets its untamed power. On a serene morning, the beach is bathed in golden dawn light, with the sounds of surf and seabirds filling the air. Today, we recount one of the most horrific shark attacks in Australian history, infamous for the sheer power and ferocity of two great white sharks. This is the story of Brad Smith and Jake Thompson, best friends and surfers, whose morning surf became a desperate battle for survival. Brad Smith, 27 years old, with sun-bleached hair and a lean, muscular build, embodies the spirit of a true surfer. He has spent countless hours riding the waves, feeling at home in the ocean's embrace. His best friend, Jake Thompson, 28, shares his love for the sea. Together, they've explored some of the most challenging surf spots, always pushing each other to take on bigger and more formidable waves. Jake Thompson has always been the more cautious of the two. Where Brad is impulsive and adventurous, Jake is thoughtful and strategic. This balance has made them an inseparable duo, each complementing the other's strengths and weaknesses. Jake's calm demeanor and quick thinking have often been the anchor that keeps Brad grounded. On this particular morning, Jake had a strange feeling, a sense of unease that he couldn't quite shake off. But Brad's infectious enthusiasm and the perfect surfing conditions pushed those worries to the back of his mind. As they paddle out, the cool water splashing against their skin, they feel a deep connection to the ocean. The waves are gentle, rolling in with a soothing rhythm that promises an exhilarating ride. The friends share a moment of silent appreciation for the beauty around them, the tranquility of the morning, and the thrill of the surf to come. But the ocean, with all its beauty, holds secrets and dangers unseen. As Brad catches his first wave, carving through the water with effortless grace, a shadow looms beneath the surface. It moves with a silent menace, a great white shark drawn by the commotion above. The shark strikes with a sudden explosive force, hitting Brad with such power that his surfboard snaps in half. The impact is brutal, sending Brad sprawling into the water. Panic surges through him as he struggles to understand what just happened, his heart pounding, his breath quickening. Jake, seeing his friend in distress, paddles furiously toward him. The water around Brad begins to turn a sickening shade of red, and Jake's heart races with fear. He reaches Brad just as the second attack comes, more ferocious than the first. A second, even larger great white shark launches out of the water, its jaws closing around Brad with a terrifying finality. Brad fights with all his strength, his survival instincts kicking in. He punches and kicks, trying to free himself from the shark's grip, but the predator's power is overwhelming. The water churns with a frenzy of movement, a violent dance between man and beast. Jake, desperate to save his friend, grabs Brad's arm, trying to pull him away from the shark. But it's a battle they can't win. The shark's teeth tear through Brad's flesh, and the ocean around them becomes a horrifying mix of blood and foam. On the shore, bystanders begin to notice the commotion. Some run to get help, while others watch in shock and horror. The serene morning has turned into a nightmare. Brad's strength begins to wane, the loss of blood and the trauma taking their toll. He looks at Jake, his eyes filled with a mixture of fear and resignation. Jake, tears streaming down his face, refuses to let go, even as he knows that time is running out. Finally, the sharks retreat, leaving Brad's limp body floating in the water. Jake pulls him onto his board and paddles back to shore, his arms and legs burning with exhaustion and despair. Bystanders rush to help, pulling Brad from the water, trying to stem the flow of blood, but it's too late. The injuries are too severe, the loss of blood too great. As they carry Brad up the beach, his life slipping away with each passing second, the reality of the situation sets in. Jake kneels beside his friend, holding his hand, whispering words of comfort, even as he knows Brad can no longer hear them. For Jake, the loss is unbearable. He feels the weight of survivor's guilt, the relentless questions of what he could have done differently. The immense strength of the sharks was unlike anything the witnesses had ever seen. The sheer force of the attacks left Brad's surfboard shattered, and his body gravely wounded in a matter of moments. The sharks, with their powerful jaws and unrelenting aggression, seemed almost unstoppable. Their quick disappearance after the attack left a haunting silence over the scene, a stark contrast to the chaos they had unleashed. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Animal Quests. If you enjoyed these amazing stories, please hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to us and helps our channel grow. We love hearing from you, so don't forget to leave a comment below. Stay safe out there, especially around the water. In our next episode, we'll be diving into some incredible new encounters you won't want to miss. Until then, take care and see you next time.